Goal setting, motivation, and discipline. Basically, you need a hierarchy of goals that all feed to a bigger, more significant goal. One of the things that I realized a while back was clients aren't achieving their goals because they actually don't realize why they're important to their life. Because if you think about it, losing weight isn't actually that big of a goal, or it's not that really important to most people, because it's like, yes, I want to lose weight, whether it's health reasons, whether it's because you want to look a certain way, but like it's not actually important to the life that I want to lead. So do I really need to put all this time and effort into it? And why would I not pick doing something else over doing this? I think that's what got me along the rabbit hole of like the progress pyramid, of trying to figure out, well, what is it that actually can get someone motivated to the point where they do the thing, and what can keep someone disciplined enough so they continue to do the thing. And it was only when I was reading one of the Mass articles. Mass is monthly application in strength sports. I'm not any type of affiliate. I just think their stuff's really great. I was reading some of the stuff on goal settings and motivation, getting ready for this video, and I come across the hierarchy of goals that I think is actually a different way of the system that I came up with. And I'm not saying I came up with this, but it's a different way of explaining it, and it kind of feeds into the way that I view things as well, which is quite nice to see. So how does this thing work? Shameless plug about the pyramid. I've just put this in there because you're going to see mine later. This is just to lead you in. It's like a leading a horse to water. It's just like getting you in the right place. So superordinate goals. This is your ideal self. This is who do you want to be? What do you want from life? And what is your biggest goal? So with this, I think long term. So what is the long term of this goal? Basically, what is the biggest picture of who I want to be and what I want from life? Because there's no point doing things. There's no point doing things on a daily basis if it's not going to improve your life, right? And the life that we want is going to come into a big part of what makes goals meaningful on a medium and short-term basis. So having a long-term goal, which is a version of yourself, which is your ideal self, something like self-actualization, becoming the best version of yourself you could be, is going to be extremely important for creating shorter term goals. So this is where I think people fall down when they start, I'm going to start this fitness journey, I'm going to go do these things, is they start with the fitness bit and they start with the small right now bit, the short term goal, and they don't start with the what's the big term, what's the long strategy, what's the long game here, what's the thing I'm actually after, because I can do this thing now, but is it actually important to my life? And I think that's part of the reason why people fall off of things that aren't really that important to their life, because the things that we do and that we have found to be important to our lives and that we do on a regular basis is because for some way, either positive or negative, doing that thing has given us a result, which is something that we have confirmed to be good or confirmed to be bad, which is why we do something or don't do something, which is why when we make these motivated, half-hearted goals, and when we say we're going to do something when we don't actually believe in it, it's why we drop off so quickly, because we don't really think it's that important to us. Because it's like, if you ever go for a period of time without being able to sleep, right? I went for a period of time and not being able to sleep ages ago, and I found that reading for me was really important. It helped me to switch off my brain, helped me fall asleep. Then it got to the point where I was like, well, actually, the more important thing than reading is making sure my room's pitch black. Because if my room's not pitch black, I literally cannot sleep. And then I went for a period where I kept waking up in the night. And it was like, well, I can't read in the middle of the night. So what is it that's waking me up? And it's like, well, it was actually because I was struggling to breathe. So now I wear some nasal strips when I sleep. I have unlinked that reading is important to me for going to sleep and getting to sleep, because I realize that a pitch black room and having a nasal strip is going to do more for me than reading does. Doesn't mean reading is not important. Doesn't mean it doesn't help me get to sleep. It certainly does. But it's not as important. And I've unlinked the importance of it to the goal, which is why I no longer feel the need every single night to do that thing. Before I realized it was because of the fact that everything is not pitch black and the fact that I couldn't actually breathe when I was sleeping, I was like, it's got to be reading. Reading helps me settle down. And it does. But the fact that I've unlinked it means that it's not something I just go to do automatically, because I don't see the importance in it as much as I do every single night. I could be falling asleep and I realize I haven't got my nose strip on, and I'll get up and go and do that thing because I've got some strong value associated with that thing of putting the nose strip on. Then you have your intermediate goals. So intermediate goals is what makes up the bigger goal. So what are good ways of living? What is good ways of acting and being that will add to the big picture? This is like a general goal or a general kind of umbrella statement to wrap up the smaller goals that make up that statement. When I think of like the ideal life, and then I think of a goal underneath that that's going to create that, I'm just thinking of a way of being and acting that's going to help me achieve the bigger picture goal. And then I think of the subordinate goals, which are your short-term goals. And these are your daily goals, actions that you can do to help you achieve your intermediate goals. So as we move on, I'm going to go through and show you what this looks like. Your superordinate goals and your ideal self can be made up of different things, right? This is my version of what you want from life. It's actually the pyramid's upside down. It's because I built mine from the ground up. Sorry, shameless plug. Carry on. Subordinate goals. So your ideal self is who do I want to be, which is the same as what you want from life. And I think you do these things because it gives you direction. So I think you need to figure out what your ideal self is, who you want to be, what you want from life, because it gives you something to aim at. And it gives you something that you can like adjust the rest of your life around. So when I think about this for myself, and I think of the superordinate goals that I look at, or I think of the big picture goals that I'm aiming at, I want to be a good role model for my children, my friends and family. That's a big, like, important thing for me. When I get older, I want to be able to protect and kind of look after my family when I have children and stuff like that. So a way of summing that up is like, overall, I want to be healthy because it shows my children how to be healthy. It shows my friends and family the importance of health and the fact that it can be done. I want to be a good father who can provide and look after my family. So I want to be strong. And then the next one is I want to be a leader in my business. So these are just like a couple of ideal self goals. There are way more which make up the kind of view of myself of who I want to be. And when you're thinking of this ideal self, think about the biggest picture and what you think. If you could think of yourself of who you could be if everything in your life went the right way, if you were to write a comic book, if you were to write a superhero movie, if you were to cast yourself as the lead character in a film, what would that person be? What would the characteristics be like? How would they represent themselves? What is that ideal version of yourself that you would write into a story? That person, what are the things that make up them? So this is going to be broken then down into further things. So if I want to be healthy, what does that look like? It means be in good shape, get good sleep, be calm and reasonable, eat a healthy diet, be financially responsible. All of these things help me to kind of become more of the ideal self that I'm after. And then if you go further deeper into that, into one of those sections, so again, you've got be in good shape, you could go deep into that as to, well, what do I have to do to be in good shape, right? Get good sleep. What have I got to do to get good sleep? Like, be calm and reasonable. How can I be calm and reasonable? So if we look at get good sleep, for example, put my phone on charge at 8 p.m. and don't use it for the rest of the night. So if I put my phone over there, I don't use it for the rest of the night. So I'm like reducing my screen time. So when I go to sleep, I'm not kind of kept awake by the blue light of my phone. Read before bed because it calms me down. So if I'm going to go to bed, again, like we just spoke about, I'm going to read because it calms me down. If my brain's ticking over, helps me get to sleep. Go to sleep between 9:30 and 10:30 each night and wake up at between 4:40 and 5:40 each morning. So have the same wake and sleep cycle is going to help me. I listed off a load of other things earlier: pitch black room, cold room, nose strips. Some of you will like Brownian noise and like some kind of soundscape. Some of you need silence, so earplugs might be a shout. All of those things help me to get good sleep. Get good sleep helps me to be healthy, which is going to help me be a good role model for my friends and my family and my children, which is going to add to be my ideal self. When I look at these things, you can make up your different layers by figuring out your ideal self first, then figuring out what you need to do to create that ideal self, and then figuring out what you need to do on a day-to-day level to make that thing happen. Have a big picture, long-term goal of who you want to be and what you want from life. Understand what you need to do to make that happen. Who do you have to become and what will help you become that person? And then what daily, weekly actions do you need to take to be that person? I'm going to talk you through the progress pyramid of the way that I see this version of it, and the reason I kind of have come up to a similar conclusion, but just following off my own experience of working with people, along with reading loads of other different books and stuff like that. But I think you need to know what you want from life because it gives you direction. To then move closer towards that goal, you need some knowledge to understand what you need to do, to then gain some self-belief that you can actually do that thing. Because for you to have confidence in yourself that you can be that ideal person, you need to show that you're competent in those areas. Okay. So if I want to be a healthy person, I need the knowledge of how to be a healthy person. Once I have the knowledge, I then need to build up my competency within that, meaning I need to do the thing over and over again to then be confident that I can be a healthy person. So I gain knowledge to gain that competency. So I get a level of knowledge from theoretical, and then I need to apply that knowledge from a practical standpoint to then ingrain that in myself to say that I'm competent in it, to give me confidence and self-belief. And then to become self-aware, kind of the accountability aspect from my perspective is becoming self-aware is the same as subordinate goals to a certain degree, because it is looking at a goal and it is deciding what you are not doing and what are barriers in the way of stopping you from achieving that thing. So let's have a look, shall we? Go back into the sleep thing. So looking at the sleep thing as a knowledge, what does it mean to be healthy? What are things that I've got to do to be healthy? I don't know. So I Google it and it tells me I need to get good sleep. Right. How do I get good sleep? And then what we do is we go, all of these things that get good sleep. Okay, so what am I not doing, which is stopping me from getting good sleep? And then you literally go, I'm on my phone all night. Well, I'm going to put that to the side. Tick one. That's some level of self-awareness. I need to know I am the one who is in the way of doing the things that I could do to improve my life, to become my ideal self, which means that the goals that I actually set myself are about targeting the things that I know about myself, which means that I need to be comfortable enough to be honest with who I am so I can look at where I'm going wrong and I can make positive steps towards becoming the person I want to be by being self-aware enough to know that I'm on my phone all night, so I need to put it to the side. Just some level of self-awareness to basically keep yourself accountable for the goals that you have set. I want to get up between 22, 5 and half 5. That's the goal. I want to get up within those times. It takes some level of self-awareness to know what's stopping me from getting up between those times. I know if I'm overworked, I'm overtired, I drank on the weekend, that when it comes to me getting up early, I'm not going to be able to do it. I know that I can't get up early if I don't have a good night's sleep, which means I know I need to go to bed at a certain time, which means I need some level of self-awareness to get myself to bed. The self-awareness also allows you to, again, like we just said, the self-awareness keeps you accountable, but it also allows you to identify the problems in what's going on. I know, like, I know that when I get some knowledge about looking at a list of what it means to be healthy, and then I get a knowledge of what it looks like to get good sleep, then me applying those things needs some level of self-awareness to know what the actual problem is. So getting the good sleep one, for example, being on your phone late at night is going to stop you from going to sleep, or you don't think you're on your phone. That would be the bigger part of it, is like, you know that you need to be off of your phone, but you actually aren't aware enough to know that you are on it till you go to sleep. You aren't ever going to be able to solve the correct problem because we're always looking at the wrong side of it. We're always looking at, it can't be my phone. It must be the fact that I'm not reading before bed. It must be the night time, the fact that I don't have like blackout curtains. It could be all of those things, right? And I think that's the important bit of this, is that when we look at these goals and we look at these things, we start to have a accountability and we start to be self-aware enough to identify the problem. And then once we've identified the problem, we need to then come up with multiple different solutions to that problem. And this is like where the actions and the daily goal setting comes in, because knowing that you need to get to bed on time and knowing that you're on your phone late and you can't get off of it because you're addicted to it and you're just doom scrolling, right? Well, what's the solution to that problem? Gain some knowledge, learn. Try different things. Think about it this way. I'm doom scrolling. I need to get off my phone. Okay, this is also part of being self-aware, because it's identifying the root cause problem, right? Problem is I'm on my phone before I go to sleep. is that the problem? Or is the problem that you're addicted to being on your phone? Because if I say to you, put your phone outside of the room, you'd go, but I don't have, it's my alarm. Buy yourself an alarm. Oh, I couldn't do that. Why? And then you start to get to the idea that, oh, actually, it's because I am too afraid to be away from my phone. And then it's like, okay, put your phone on do not disturb. Well, I still end up on it. Okay, download a phone blocking app. I use a thing called Opal, not sponsored. It's amazing. Stops me from going on Instagram and stuff when I should be working. It's great. Download it. I'm going to download something like that to keep me off my phone. Doesn't work. I keep skipping it. Then it comes down to the level of reminding yourself of the importance of your ideal self and what you actually want. And if you think that that is going to help you get there, there's some element of you need to meet yourself where you're at when setting goals. There's no point me saying to you that you need to wear a nose strip, have blackout curtains, get 8 hours of sleep each night. Don't go on your phone for 2 hours. Don't have any TV for 2 hours before you go to bed. Wear blue blocking glasses and wind down for an hour before actually going to sleep. There's no point me saying that if you can't do one thing, right? Which is why when we set goals, we set small goals because we want to set the most achievable thing that we can actually do. That's the goal setting process. We break down big goals into small goals. We think about what we want from life and who we want to be, our ideal self. We then think about what characteristics and what it means to be that ideal self. Then we look at what it takes to have those characteristics. What have I got to do? What are the daily actions I've got to do? And then I create a list of actions that I need to do, right? Where does motivation come into this? And this is where people set a goal and they get a couple of weeks into it and then they become unmotivated and they don't want to do the thing. So I think understanding what role motivation plays in the goal setting process and in us achieving our goals is quite big. So for motivation, you need to know who you want to be, and you need to know who you don't want to be. The RAT study. The RAT study is a famous Jordan Peterson one. If I mention that name, I don't know if people are just going to freak out. I know a load of people don't like him. That's fine. Just the study. Let's think about the RAT study. The RAT study is basically have something to run towards and have something to run from. It's pretty simple. What do you want? What do you don't want? What do you don't want? What do you don't want? What do you not want? The RAT study was basically, they had a maze and they found that if they had some food at the end of the maze, the rat would find their way to the maze, the end, quicker because it had some motivation of something pulling it forward. There's some food at the end. I can find my way through the maze quicker because there's that. They found that when they took the food away, but they put the smell of cat urine behind him, that would drive the rat to the finish line quicker than the goal. When they put both, it was quicker again. And they used I think they used different rats. I'm assuming they used different rats. Otherwise, the rat just is really good at mazes. Could you imagine if that was actually it? It was nothing to do with the fact that motivation is driven from having something negative behind you and something positive in front of you. It's actually driven from the fact that you're a rat and you're really good at working out mazes. You're like an Alice in Wonderland rat. Anyway, so you need something to run towards, something to run from. So once you figured out your ideal self and who you want to be, it's a really good idea to figure out who you don't want to be, basically. Figure out what you don't want from life. Look at people around you. Look at the behaviors that they have that you're disgusted by or you do not like or you feel sorry for them about. And then run far away from those things because that's who you don't want to be, right? And if you made a list of all of the things that they do that you don't like, or that all of the things that they do that make them who they are, if you've got someone in your life that you just despise or don't like, or even someone you like but you just see their flaws, you'd be surprised at the amount of flaws that you probably have that you don't realize you have. And having that, there's again the awareness bit, but having some idea of what you don't want is going to be crucial to this as we move forward. The next bit, give me a minute. We'll talk through external motivation, internal motivation, and my ideas and thoughts around it. Everything starts as external motivation and then becomes internal. I believe that everything starts externally and then becomes internal motivation because of where we get of what we are as humans, right? I think we are made up of all of the things that have ever happened to us. So I think that We are just the responses to situations, to people, to things that have happened in our lives. And that from those situations and from the way that we act, we get a positive or negative confirmation to either do something or to not do something. So if we want to be liked and we do something, we make a joke in class at school and everyone laughs and that makes us more liked, then we're going to think that making jokes in class is going to be the thing which makes us liked. So we're going to ingrain in ourselves to constantly make jokes, and then we're going to keep reinforcing that. If people keep laughing, that's a positive thing, and that's something we want to do. So originally, we weren't internally motivated to make people laugh until we saw the effect that it had back towards us. As soon as we started to realize that making someone else laugh makes us more likable, we've then linked in our brain, okay, now be funny. So I think that everything starts as an external motivator and then becomes an internal motivator because we see the positive or negative results from those things. Imagine someone who's linked running to being a positive behavior doesn't run because they might run now because they love it, but at the start they ran because it's done something positive to them or helped them come away from something negative. So either people run, you hear about people saying they run for their head, right? They run for their mental health. The link and correlation that they start to have is that every time they run, they feel better. Every time they run, they feel better. So they go on more runs and they feel better. And they keep doing that until they get to the point where they just go on runs. And they've unlinked the main thing that was driving them in the first place. So it's like the thing that was driving them was the mental health. And then it got to the point where there's now the running is void of the mental health, and the running is now the main thing. And that, yes, they still get the benefits of the mental health, but that's not the thing driving it anymore. The thing now driving it is the fact that there are goals that they've seen within the running because they've realized they're getting better. And a great thing about positive emotion is that we get positive emotion from knowledge that we're moving towards a meaningful goal, which means that if we set a goal which is important to us and we get better and better and we move towards it and move towards it, that we're actually going to get something back because we are now getting more positive emotion because we're getting closer and closer to a goal that's important to us. The goal is only important to us originally because external factors. We felt shit and we needed something to make us feel better, which is running. So we're not internally motivated to run. We are externally motivated to run because we think that running is going to be something which helps us get to what we want. Additionally, from this, like another way that I think about this is like, if, for example, when it comes to creating your own internal motivations, I think internal motivators only come from knowledge of our life in general. Like I'm internally motivated to a really good example of this is what I'm doing right now, right? Following the YouTube thing. And obviously this is going out to clients and stuff like this, but following the YouTube thing is a big thing of mine right now. And that is because I've watched a YouTuber for about 4 years. He is living a dream of sorts, he's living a life which I would like. And let's get real deep into the nth degree of this. Watching him over the 4 years grow, watching him over the 4 years get better, watching him over the 4 years find his flow, buy a family house, have family, have kids, are confirming to me of all of the things that I want, right? He's living a life which is similar to the thing that I want. And seeing the actions that he's doing makes me go, well, there is definitely something motivating about doing that thing, which means that I wouldn't be thinking about doing YouTube if it wasn't for the fact that I've seen the results of it from someone else externally, and that's externally motivating. It'll only become internally motivating once I start to reap the rewards, once I start to get the positive emotion from it. A great way of thinking about this is internal validation, external validation, similar to motivation, but validation being that you do something and you look for someone else for approval. And a really good way to think about this is ask yourself this question. When you achieve a goal, are you happier with yourself that you've achieved that goal? Or are you only happy that you've achieved that goal if someone else tells you, well done? The one person on your mind right now that you can think of, when they tell you, keep going, or when they say that was amazing, are you more motivated by them telling you, or are you more motivated by what you're saying? Because being driven from external validation, to me, is always going to be less important than internal validation. But I think internal validation will only come once you become internally motivated, and you only become internally motivated once you get positive emotion back from doing an action, and you know that action links to your bigger picture goal. So you have big picture goal, you have the fact that you then have the goals underneath it that create that person, you have the daily tasks that you need to do to create that characteristic. You need to link that daily task to positive emotion because you're moving towards the thing you want. And the only reason you are externally motivated to do something is because you've seen that it's got results, or someone has told you it's got results in the first place. And it's not until you start to see those results yourself that it becomes an internal motivator, and then you become internally validated that what you've achieved and what you are doing is the right thing. If you do something over and over and over and over and over again, it will turn into internal motivation, internal validation, if you let it, and if you address the self-confidence issues that you have, which is making you look externally. We looked at a thing called the locus of self-evaluation, and it's some counseling thing, and I can't really remember off the top of my head, but it was basically that you believe that someone else's opinions of you and their suggestions of what they think you should do are more important than your own. And if you believe that, it means that anytime you go to do something, you're going to be questioning whether it's the right thing or not. And that happens a lot of the time from an anxious place and like a scared place, because you're not too sure, you don't trust yourself. And again, the only way you trust yourself is to prove that you can trust yourself. It's to gain competency, because the confidence feedback loop. You just have to become more competent within the thing that you're studying to give yourself more confidence that you're doing the right thing in the first place. That is how you gain some self-belief that you are who you say you are, that you can do what you say you can do, and that these things that you're doing on a daily basis are actually going to go towards that bigger picture goal. The only way you do that is to do the thing over and over again. And that's the hard bit. That's where discipline comes into this whole equation, right? This is where keeping yourself motivated comes into that whole equation. Reward yourself for doing the things you know you should do to create a positive feedback loop. You need to reward yourself every single time you do something good, because you've done something good. And it doesn't need to be like the reward needs to match the task. There's no point kind of buying yourself a new PlayStation just because you took the rubbish out. Like, it's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, if you manage to get a week of good sleep, you manage to hit your meal targets all week, you get to take yourself to the cinema, you get to go out for some food, you get to buy yourself a new PlayStation game, you get to sit down and play that PlayStation game. Like, those are things that can be internally motivating, because it's like, what is something that is good for me, which I really enjoy doing? How can that be a reward for something I know I need to do, which is good for me? Discipline. And this is where the argument of discipline versus motivation comes. I think it's all motivation. So I don't actually think it's discipline. I think that people learn discipline because, again, they've linked the fact that doing the thing is good for them and they need to do it. So they stay disciplined with those things because 9 times out of 10, they don't like the negative ramifications from not doing that thing. That's what I think. I think if you're struggling with discipline, think about the negative things that happen from not doing it. Don't think about the positives that come from it to some degree. Still think about them, but you need both. You can't just have, I need to do this thing because I know it's going to help me sleep better. If I don't do that thing, I'm going to get shit sleep. If I get shit sleep, I'm going to be miserable. If I get miserable, I'm not going to be able to treat my family good. And like, I like the idea of spider webbing everything into making the goal as important as I can to me, by giving myself 100 different reasons why it's important to me, and why by doing that one thing, my whole life will improve. Because like, this is the other thing that I think people forget about, is that like, you don't just get one positive outcome from doing one good thing. Like, you do something good, or you change something positive about your life, you go to bed earlier, you just get 8 hours sleep. You don't realize the effect that's having on you. You're going to be able to burn fat a lot easier. You're going to be a nicer human being, which is a huge one. You're not going to be as hungry. You're not going to have as many cravings. Better sleep's going to mean you can work harder when you're awake. It means you can be more present. It means that when you want to go and do something, you have the motivation to do it because you're not just tired all the time. It means that you're more likely to have the resilience to not do the bad things, to not smoke, to not go on your phone, because you're not just tired. Like, sleep deprivation is a huge problem. But by just doing that one thing, you get a huge return. And I think these are the things that, like, I like to set my life up as, is like, what are all of the positive things I get from doing this one thing? Simply, and write them all down and make them meaningful. Like, make them scary for not achieving it. It sounds mad, but I know that if I don't do something, right, if I don't do a piece of work and I don't achieve the thing I'm aiming at achieving, I'm not actually going to get the life that I want. I'm going to be stuck the same place. I'm going to be the same person who was afraid ages ago that they're going to be a failure. I'm going to be that same person if I don't do something about that thing, which makes it really fucking important to do the things. Reward yourself for doing something that you like, for doing something that you know you should do, and slowly make a small, easy task more difficult. So when you do set yourself goals, when you do focus down on the actions, say you've got 10 actions listed out in front of you of things that you know you need to do. What's the easiest one? Can you do that for 1 to 2 weeks consistently? And can you then over time make that slightly harder? Another way of thinking about it is just go like more and more micro, like zoom in more and more, and kind of get better and better and better. It's like every single time that you think you're doing every single time you set yourself up, for example, to a diet, at the start, it's just, we need to eat less, move more, right? And then we look into it a little bit more and it's like, right, we need to have a structure. Okay, so we have a structure for your diet and you make one up and it's great. And then you look into it even more and it's like, I need more protein in my diet. It's like, okay, so we zoom in, we need more protein. It's like, okay, so now we've zoomed in and we need more protein. We need to actually make sure that the meal timings are better. Once we got the meal timings better, have we got the right amount of protein in every meal? Is that spread out evenly? Once we start to do all these things, we get more micro, more micro, more micro. We build up this bigger picture, right? We have this better idea and more defined idea of what it means to eat healthy, to lose weight, to change my diet. It means eating more protein at breakfast. It means having a protein yogurt at breakfast. The most micro I can get on that goal, and that's the goal that I aim for. Once I achieve that micro goal, I can then start to expand to make more difficult goals. And don't set yourself up for failure here. Like, be self-awareness, realize what you can do and what you can't do. And then the final bit on discipline, to me, is, okay, not the final bit. We're going on another tangent. What are the things that's going to stop you from doing those daily actions? They're barriers. You need to list out why those barriers are there in the first place. And you need to figure out, are they actual barriers that can be solved, or are they just excuses? So, for example, like, I know if I work too much, I overwork myself, I get stressed, I am not going to be able to go and achieve. I'm not going to be able to get up early in the morning because I'm stressed. I've had bad sleep. I feel drained, which means that the barrier in my way of achieving my things is the fact that I'm overworked. So I need to address that situation. So if there's things that are in the way, you need to find a way to either minimize them or just deal with them. And this brings me on to my last bit, because to some degree, you need to ignore your feelings and do it anyway. So you will feel any type of way, X, Y, Z. You'll feel sad, you'll feel angry, you'll feel miserable. But if you have made a plan on what you need to do to become the ideal self, and again, you've got another goal which builds on top of, which is building towards that, which is being healthy, and you've got another goal which is building towards that, which is getting good sleep. If there's something which is stopping you from getting good sleep, and you know it's important because you're on your phone, you can't get off of it, ignore the feelings when you put your phone down, because they're always going to be there. You've made a plan on what you need to do, so you need to just do the thing, because ultimately the feelings don't necessarily matter. The feelings are an expression of something you're feeling because of how past scenarios have told you to feel about that thing. You may feel anxious when your partner leaves because you feel like they're going to cheat on you. That doesn't mean that's going to happen, but that may be the feeling you get. So you just need to ignore that feeling and just carry on with your life anyway. Execute the plan. Big picture goal, characteristics, and a smaller goal which builds towards that big picture goal. Micro down, micro down, micro down. What's the daily actions? What's the individual thing I need to do and change? and then focus on that. My name's Charlie. This is How to Work Out Your Mind. If you enjoyed this and you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching in the app, please let me know if you enjoyed it. Hopefully this helped you. Thank you for watching. My name's Charlie. We will see you on the next one.